Welcome to the Mystic Media channel. I'm your host, Rahbinah, aka the Realist Astrologer, and I'm back with part 2 of Gary Doris video natal chart reading. So I'm back, Gary, so thank you for being patient. I got my tinted glasses on because I was looking at myself in the camera and I was like, oh my God, look at the dark circles under my eyes. So I'm working on very little sleep right now, so you're just gonna have to excuse me. That's why I got my glasses on. So these glasses are prescription, but they're tinted. So I'm very sensitive to like artificial light. That's why I started wearing tinted glasses years ago. A lot of that deals with Pluto squaring my ascendant. So the reason why I wear these tinted shades and me being extra sensitive. So yeah, so if I look a little different, that's why, but I'm sure you've seen me in videos with these glasses on before. So let me share my screen. Okay, so we left off at Jupiter. So let me just pull up the slideshow. Now, before I get into your Jupiter, I was thinking about your Gemini moon in the 12th house. And I was wondering if you've ever been told that you talk in your sleep. So let me know if you've ever been told that you talk in your sleep, because that can be a manifestation of a 12th house moon in Gemini. So I just, that just came to mind. So sometimes like when I'm working on a person's chart, once I step away from the chart, like in the process of me still working on it, certain things will come to mind. So that's what came to mind after I finished part 1 of the video. I was like, I wonder what that 12th house moon in Gemini, does he talk in his sleep? So let me know about that. Also, I was wondering, because of that 12th house moon in Gemini, and this deals with sleep again, you could have bouts of restless sleep that could produce sleep disturbances. And also, I was wondering if you were susceptible or prone to sleep apnea. So let me know about that. So sleep apnea is where you do this heavy snoring and you can actually stop breathing in the middle of your sleep. So let me know if you've ever been diagnosed with sleep apnea, or if someone has told you that you snore very loudly and that you make these like you could tell if somebody has sleep apnea because they'll snore very loudly and then they'll make like this snorting noise and then they'll stop snoring and you can almost hear that they've stopped breathing. And it's a very serious disorder that can lead to death, because a person, I forget, I did some research on it, but I forget how long in duration that a person could stop breathing in their sleep, but it's pretty long. I'm talking about minutes. So it could actually lead to death. So if you have that problem, you definitely want to get that checked out. You want to get some type of sleeping aid so that you could get a restful night's sleep without having that sleep apnea problem. Now, that might not be an issue, but your moon is afflicted by some of your other planets. So I was just wondering. So that's just something to consider. So Jupiter. So Jupiter is at the 12th degree of Sagittarius. Jupiter rules your 7th house and your 10th house. So this energy is directed towards your relationships as well as your career. No, my bad. It rules your 11th house. Actually, let me edit that right now. See, Mercury retrograde, I told you there would be some mistakes. So let me just change that to the 11th house. Save. Current slide. Okay, so Jupiter rules your 7th and 11th house. 7th through Sagittarius, 11th house through Pisces. So this energy is directed towards your relationships as well as your friendships. So the 12th degree reinforces the energy of Jupiter and Sagittarius, albeit it comes with a degree of sorrow, and the themes sacrifice and victimization are very prominent. Basically, with Jupiter at the 12th degree, or any planet that's at the 12th degree, pertaining to that planet, your options are to serve or to suffer. The themes of Sagittarius become amplified when Jupiter is in Sagittarius, and it's a good placement for Jupiter since Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Justice is a major theme. Freedom is another theme. Excess is a major theme. So you might have a problem with excess, especially because Jupiter is at the 12th degree of Sagittarius, and that 12th degree is very much like Sagittarius energy, Jupiter energy. So that compounds the tendency towards excess. So it could be excessive social activity, excessive sex, giving a partner too much access to you, where it's like you're giving them a free-for-all, where they can do as they please. So excessive liberties. Openness and honesty, truth, principles are very much Jupiter and Sagittarius. Adventures, optimism, faith, blind faith even, spirituality, higher knowledge, education. Wanton, reckless, hedonistic. Those are some of the dark manifestations of Jupiter and Sagittarius. So with Jupiter in the 7th house, there are often problems with maintaining long-term commitments, thrill-seeking through relationships. So when I say thrill-seeking, it could be subconscious on your part where you're not really looking for a roller coaster ride type of relationship, but you happen to attract those type of relationships. So that goes hand in hand with adventure through relationships. So you may not be that type of person that, you know, goes skydiving or, you know, likes to bungee jump or go on some safari or something like that. So you tend to get your adventure through your relationships or through others. And as a result, partners have a tendency to take you on a wild ride if you let them. Also with Jupiter in the 7th house, you may not trust yourself when left to your own devices. That's basically like if you're given full freedom, you may not really trust yourself. And then a lot of that deals with your Gemini rising. So you might have heard of that saying, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. That is definitely Gemini, including Gemini rising. So with Jupiter in the 7th house, freedom is often projected onto others, or you often give your freedom over to others because you really don't feel comfortable with being totally free on your own, because you might be inclined towards the dark side when you're left to your own devices. Or maybe you're just inclined to be reckless or irresponsible, what have you. And Jupiter is opposing your ascendant as well as your moon. The more social connections, the better. Multicultural, interracial relationships, relationships with foreigners. And you mentioned that you do tend to attract foreigners. Jupiter in the 7th can also produce long distance relationships, and this may actually be better for you. And you do have Jupiter opposing the moon. Now, Jupiter opposition moon can also manifest as you being with a partner where you live with a partner, but the two of you live in separate bedrooms. Also, the theme of justice is reinforced. Sycophantic tendencies, I mentioned that before, and that opposition between Jupiter and the ascendant, as well as Jupiter opposition moon, reinforces that. Being out, being open, so that deals with you being open about your sexuality. Taking leaps of faith where relationships are concerned, and that can get you in the hot water. And it's possible that you can gain wealth through partnership, through marriage, through relationship. And also, you stand to learn a lot from your partners. And also, there's a chance that you could end up adopting their beliefs, like their spiritual belief system, their religion, their ethics, and their morals. Because remember I said with Gemini rising, you may not have a strong moral compass. So with Jupiter in the 7th, you look to others to provide that moral compass, to provide that code of ethics. And sometimes that can be not a good thing, because if you're following the wrong type of people, then that means that you're going to subscribe to the wrong type of beliefs. Here's your chart again. So here's Jupiter. It's right on your 7th house cuts, which is very significant. So that reinforces the theme of short-term relationships. Also relationships where it consists of a person from a different culture, ethnicity, nationality. Also long-distance relationships. So that's very strong. This also points to your placement in foster care. Sagittarius is one of the key signs that is an indicator of foster care. Just go back. Okay. Jupiter aspects. So like I said, you have Jupiter opposition Moon. I already spoke about that, but just to reiterate, that could point to your mother's disappearance, placement in foster care, possible necessary relocation at some point in your life. So you might find the need to relocate somewhere far from your place of birth at some point in your life. And this can point to no family connections. Jupiter semi-square Uranus, basically attracting partners who are unwilling to commit. Unwilling to commitment. See that mistake? Let me change that real quick. Unwilling to commit, not commitment. Remember I told you I got Mars in the 6th. I'm always doing these corrections. All right. Being stuck in the friend zone, I mentioned that before. So with natal charts, a lot of times the aspects that you see, some of the aspects are going to reinforce other aspects, or they're going to echo the manifestation of other aspects. So a lot of times you'll see reoccurring themes in your natal chart. So being stuck in the friend zone is one of them. Being disruptive at times, social discord as a result of being outspoken, being bullied, leaving groups abruptly. And that's one thing I got to mention, because I noticed one time you did leave Real Talk Astrology abruptly, and also being bullied or being judged harshly. And I do want to mention that one time I did peep that some dude was, throwing shade your way and coming at you for being gay. And I really felt some type of way about it. But when I see stuff like that, that's why I have my moderators, because when I first created my Real Talk Astrology group, that's one of the things I mentioned to my moderators, because I had a meeting with them. So I talked about, I was like, there's a no tolerance policy when it comes to discrimination, when it comes to hate-filled speech, when it comes to racism, sexism, and also homophobic people. So I saw instances of that with you and this one particular guy. I forget who it was, but I think he's been kicked out. I'm pretty sure he's been kicked out of the group, banned permanently. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that is not tolerated in my Real Talk Astrology group. Everybody is going to be respected. And if, we have differences of opinion, we need to respect each other's differences and just move on. So when I saw that guy made a point of calling you out like that, I think he said something like chill on that homo shit or something like that. I was like, wow. And I was like, first of all, it's one thing if you don't necessarily agree with the homosexual lifestyle. It's another thing for you to inject yourself into a thread in a group that has nothing to do with you. And it's making you very, it's funny because, okay, it's like, if you don't have nothing to be ashamed about your sexuality, if you're a straight male and all this stuff, why are you getting so bent out of shape just because you see a male posting? Like, that's something where you just keep scrolling, dude. Like, this is not for you. Just keep scrolling. But he obviously couldn't help it, and he had to say something. So that Jupiter semi-square Uranus can point to instances like that, especially because Jupiter rules your 11th house. And that is basically social activities, online activities, social media, groups, all of that. So that is the aspect that came into play when you had that confrontation with that dude. I think you did handle it pretty well with decorum and all that stuff. So I'm sure you have to go up against that quite a bit, as well as, other people who are gay and lesbian. So I just wanted to let you know that, again, I don't tolerate that bullshit in my group, and everybody needs to be treated with respect, regardless of their interests, regardless of their sexual orientation, race, belief system, what have you. I have people in my group that, they subscribe to the sidereal branch of astrology or Vedic or whatever like that, and they might post stuff that I might not necessarily agree with, but I'm not going to go behind them and be like, hold up, you ain't going to be coming in here spouting that stuff and all. No, we have to agree to disagree. There's many perspectives in terms of astrology, but just in life in general. So I just wanted to put that out there, because that really, that got me kind of like upset when I saw that going down. But like I said, that's what I have my moderators for. I got a tight moderator team, so they usually are like quick to jump on stuff like that when they see it. So Jupiter parallel Uranus reinforces issues with being friend zone, lots of random encounters or short-term connections. Also, that can point to having a lot of friends, basically. Jupiter parallel Neptune points to a need to travel, a yearning for more, meaning adventure, or a yearning for more meaning, a yearning for adventure. Basically, this makes you a visionary, and this can produce prophetic dreams. So like that prophetic dream you had about your mother. Also, this is about very much you're into fantasy. So you might be into the fantasy genre of movies. You might also be into video games because of this aspect, because Jupiter rules the 11th house. And also, this would be good for promotional gigs. So you might want to consider making some extra money or money on the side by doing promotional gigs. Also, this is good for charitable projects, and also for having a strong spiritual center, or it could bring a strong interest in certain forms of spirituality. Jupiter semi-square North Node, this deals with lacking discernment and choice of partners. It could point to a string of flings, putting faith in the wrong hands, and also foster care placement and being aged out. So when you were aged out, you might have experienced that thing again where it's like I said, if you're given too much freedom, you feel like, you can't really trust yourself when you're left to your own devices. So being aged out of the foster care system could have been rather unsettling for you, and this aspect can point to that. And you still probably had to rely on others. So with this aspect, this could cause you to be in a relationship simply because you need a place to stay, or you need to improve your life, or what have you. Saturn, at the 19th degree of Pisces, Saturn is retrograde. Saturn rules the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th house. So the 8th and 9th through Capricorn, the 10th house through Aquarius. And Saturn's at the 19th degree, which deals with father, ego, leadership, men, professional success. And Saturn in Pisces brings the themes of abandonment or neglect at the hands of the father, because Saturn rules fathers. And it could point to a father that had addiction or mental health issues. Also deals with lost and found. So that could be a strong theme with Saturn in Pisces, lost and found. So it could be literal, like where you've had to go search in the lost and found box at some store or whatever like that. Or it can point to your entry into the foster care system, or your placement in the foster care system. So you were lost and then you were found. Also being a whistleblower. So you might be a whistleblower, and I say that because Saturn mainly is in the 10th house. Also spilling the tea, outing people, and this can point to humiliating people, or where instances where you are humiliated. Saturn in Pisces is good for working in hospitals, the field of healthcare, beauty, cosmetology, music, film, fashion. Also, Saturn in Pisces brings a tendency towards a weak work ethic, shifting responsibility, shifting blame. Also, Saturn in Pisces can produce this fear of failure that keeps you from pursuing some of your ambitions. So this is one of the reasons why you really don't have strong motivation to really go out and make a major contribution to the world yet. So you may be a late bloomer in that respect. So you will be called to be charitable at times. And this can even deal with being forced to perform some type of community service as a result of a criminal charge. So that's what I mean about you will be called to be charitable at times. So sometimes it can be enforced upon you, especially since Saturn's in the 10th house. Also, this points to being in need of spiritual understanding and compassion, and it points to having heavy karma. Now, Saturn is in the 10th house. Saturn is at a position of advantage when it is in the 10th house, because Saturn rules Capricorn, and Capricorn is very much akin to the 10th house. Saturn is in the 10th house, and it reinforces the theme of ambition that comes with the sign of Capricorn. However, Saturn being in the 10th house is like saying you need to become more ambitious. So your level of ambition is not enough. You need to, crank it up a few notches. Saturn in the 10th house will result in positions that entail a high level of responsibility. Saturn in the 10th house is great for administrative level positions. It can point to karma where your mother is concerned. So you already, we already talked about your issues with your mother. Saturn in Pisces, mother may have had issues with addiction or mental illness. It brings the themes of abandonment, neglect at the hands of your mother. And also her disappearance. So in her case, it may not have been abandonment or neglect, because you said she just disappeared and nobody could find her, which is so tragic. So Saturn retrograde exacerbates this situation. And this pertains to the dreams you had about her vanishing and how it actually occurred in reality. Also points to institutionalization. So a lot of Saturn and Pisces individuals will face some form of institutionalization. So that could be jail, prison time. It could be time spent in a psychiatric hospital, time spent, when you get older in a nursing home. I'm trying to think what other type of institutionalization, well, maybe going to a boarding school, things like that. So where you're in an institutionalized setting, and that's part of people who have Saturn and Pisces, that's part of your karma. So here's your chart again. Here's where Saturn lines up. As you can see, Saturn is close to the end of your 10th house. So it's very much affecting your 11th house at the same time. So you might as well say it's conjoined to the 11th house cusp. So this could bring karmic circumstances involving your friendships and social activity. Saturn aspects. I already talked about Saturn quincunx Sun, which is one of your strongest aspects. So you got to go back to the Sun aspects. And also just going to let you know that I'm going to give you this PowerPoint presentation after this video is uploaded and after I edit some of the slides and take out, correct some of the errors and stuff like that. So anybody that wants a video natal chart reading via YouTube, know that you're going to get the accompanying PowerPoint presentation alongside of the video. Now, when I do my video natal chart readings via Zoom conferencing, I don't create a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm just going off the top of my head. So it's more free form. So, but for this YouTube presentation, because it's a bunch of viewers watching it as well, I decided to do the PowerPoint presentation to accompany the video. So Saturn sesame square Venus. Go back to the Venus aspects to see information about that. We already talked about that. Saturn parallel Pluto. Karma is tied to sex life. Thus, there is a need to be very discerning and to exercise self-discipline. There may come a time where you decide to become abstinent. So like I said, you have that Mars in Scorpio. It's conjoined to Pluto. And like I said, with Mars in Scorpio people, they have the tendency to go on binges and things and to maybe binge on drugs, alcohol, sex. But when they get tired of that type of lifestyle, they can quit cold turkey. So in your earlier life, you may do this binging upon sex and other things that bring you pleasure or ecstasy. But then when you get older, you might be like, okay, I done been there, done that. It's time for new meaning into my life. So you might start to really chill out on the sexual activity, and you might be more concerned about connecting with people more on a soul level or more on a spiritual level. And that deals with, this can deal with Saturn parallel Pluto, a transformation in terms of your status even, but also a transformation in terms of your discipline. Uranus at the 26th degree of Capricorn. Uranus rules the 10th house, and the 26th degree is about partnership. So you may want to consider going into a business partnership with someone, maybe a friend. However, there's a warning that comes with the 26th degree and the number 26 period. And that is basically, if you're going to be in a partnership, you need to maintain a strong sense of individuality and independence, because oftentimes there will be opportunism, like an opportunistic streak with the person that you're partnering up with, or there may be an imbalance of responsibility or somewhat. Know that partnerships with the 26th degree are steeped in karma. Now, Uranus entered Capricorn in the late 80s, and this birthed a generation of tech-savvy individuals. Now, the reason why I'm going into this like this is because Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are generational planets. So when they enter signs, they stay in signs for a very long time. Uranus will stay in a sign for approximately about 7 years. Neptune even longer, and Pluto a crazy long time. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they are generational in terms of their effect, but they also have an individual effect as well. So I hit on both when I do my natal charts with the outer planets like Uranus through Pluto. So Uranus entered Capricorn in the late 80s, and this birthed a generation of tech-savvy individuals. Uranus in Capricorn is about turning tradition on its head. It essentially marks the beginning of the information age due to the rise of information technology. Uranus in Capricorn also produced state-of-the-art electronics. On an individual level, Uranus in Capricorn can result in challenges with employment, and problems with authority will be common. Uranus in Capricorn denotes a lack of self-sufficiency and a dependence upon government systems. However, at the same time, individuals who have Uranus in Capricorn will have a hard time adhering to the laws and regulations of the same system that they are so utterly dependent upon. So that's why a lot of people in your age group got this problem with authority and your work ethic and all that type of stuff. Uranus in Capricorn is essentially the social justice warrior generation. So a lot of people of your generation are those social justice warriors on college campuses acting a fool over petty concerns, talk about safe spaces and all that stuff. Now, let me stop. I'm not going to belittle all that stuff, but I think a lot of it does get out of hand. And Uranus can deal with going to extremes. Extremism, activism, all that stuff. Uranus and Capricorn individuals are also responsible for the creation of a lot of apps and social media sites. A lot of individuals with Uranus and Capricorn are endowed with an entrepreneurial streak, and you may be no exception. Uranus in the 8th house, potential for codependency with friends. Friends can be bad influences, being too easily influenced by friends. Also, it can produce a sense of entitlement to other people's money or support. It can deal with receiving government entitlement benefits. Also, it points to a career, because Uranus rules the 10th, that involves crisis management, counseling, research, or investigations. It points to your mother being in crisis. Perhaps your mother was abducted, perhaps murdered, I'm sad to say. But there are some factors in your chart that could point to your mother falling to very traumatic circumstances that could have cost her life. And it looks like it could have been a man that was the culprit, a man that she was dealing with. So a sense of futility about the future and your destiny. Sudden death of loved ones, friends, father, mother. Strong interest in occult. Great for forensic astrology or forensics in general. And forensic astrology is basically where you cast charts, like horary charts, to like try to find missing persons and stuff like that, or solve murder cases and stuff. I'm very much into forensic astrology. And one of my long-term goals is to actually work with the police on those very hard to solve murder cases, like those cold cases and stuff like that, or missing person cases. Because one of my specialties is horary astrology. And that's where you could find out like about missing persons, who done it, stuff like that. Let's see. So here's your chart again. So as you can see, Uranus is in your 8th house. It's very close to your 9th house. So it's also influencing your 9th house. So this could deal with you having friends that are spread out. So you might have some friends that live, you know, maybe all over the world, or they might live a long distance from you. Uranus aspects. Uranus conjunct Neptune. So you are what I have coined the Neptunian generation. So the Neptunian generation is a term I have coined for those individuals that were born between approximately 1989 and 1996. And that's because during that time, Uranus and Neptune were neck and neck with each other. They were in bed with each other in Capricorn. And that produced a very unique phenomenon, I'll say. Basically, it resulted in artistic, spiritual, and medical breakthroughs. However, on an individual level, it could deal with disrespect for authority and hierarchy and systems, yet where you're dependent upon the very system that you abhor. So again, it goes back to kind of what I was saying about Uranus and Capricorn, where, you know, you're dependent upon a system, but you want to rebel against that system at the same time. So Uranus conjoined to Neptune can produce a lot of maladjusted individuals, especially if these two planets are contacting the personal planets through challenging aspects. So you got a lot of, people of your generation, again, that lack that work ethic, that act like they don't got no act right, that just, are just totally out there, where it just seems like they have no type of will to really make it in life or to fend for themselves. A lot of that has to do with being part of that Neptunian generation. You could look at it as learned helplessness. Then you have Uranus sextile Pluto. That's a sexy aspect. It's sexy, and it's a sextile. And what's funny is, when my children were small and they would hear me talk about astrology and stuff, and they would hear me say the word sextile, they'd be like, ew. You know how children are so immature, and like anything dealing with sex, they're all like, ew. So whenever I would say sextile, especially my son, he'd be like, ew, Mom. So yeah. So this aspect deals with the regeneration of friendships from past lives. It can point to sudden come-ups, including sudden windfalls of cash. Again, government entitlement program benefits. So that is very dominant in your chart. So this can even deal with you being able to get a grant from the government to fund a business or a nonprofit organization. Benefits through friends and group association. That theme keeps resurfacing. And also the study and or practice of metaphysical teachings like astrology results in empowerment and positive transformation. More self-control. Using astrology as a therapeutic tool, gaining prominence through social media, astrology. And I was looking at some of the comments, and you are gaining prominence through social media. And I feel like this video, natal chart reading, is going to cause you to become even more prominent. And maybe this will give you the impetus to really start pursuing some of your goals and ambitions. Also, this is good for blogging, especially about sex, psychology, and self-help topics. You have Uranus square North Node. This deals with sudden separations, karmic debt, attempts to be, or I'll say sudden separations, and they're a result of the karmic debt that you've incurred in past lives, because Uranus is also square in the South Node. So this is when I talked about your Gemini rising, and I said you operating in terms of a dual purpose or a hidden agenda, or where you're actually like two people in one or whatever like that. This basically deals with how you're able to get around that North Node in Libra mission that you're supposed to carry out. Now, ideally, since you're a man with that North Node in Libra, that means that in this lifetime, you're supposed to be able to learn how to relate to the opposite sex better. So the opposite sex for you would be women. Ideally, it would mean in this lifetime, you're supposed to form relationships with the opposite sex, which could include marriage. But see, this is where this aspect comes in, because you got Uranus square North Node. And this is about attempts to be both masculine, giving, and feminine, receiving. Now, this more than likely is not being done on a conscious part, like consciously on your part. But it's basically stemming back to that Aries South Node framework, where you are one person, you are all about yourself. And because you have that Aries South Node, you're still bringing those selfish, ego-oriented tendencies over from past lives. So the way it manifests in this life with this aspect in particular is basically pointing to, okay, I'm going to live through my North Node to the best of my ability, but because I'm a gay male, I'm going to do it in a way that is unconventional. Uranus deals with unconventional. Uranus is also the planet of homosexuality. So this basically stems from both of your parents not being there for you. So you really didn't have any framework, Libra framework to go off on from an early age, because both of your parents were in your life. And your parents are the first representation of that Libra energy. So namely your mother especially, Uranus rules the 10th house. So again, this is like, okay, because, we all have a masculine and a feminine side. Some of us choose to display more of our masculine traits. Some of us display more of our feminine. Some of us can do it even, have it more balanced. And that's what you're doing, where you can be masculine and feminine, and that deals with your sexuality. So it's like you're a male in terms of your sex, you know, you being a male, but then the type of sex that you engage in is actually more so female, especially if you're the type that engages in anal sex and you're the receiver. So that would be you assuming the role of the female, and your moon being on your ascendant points to that too. Like you're embodying the essence of a female, but that mainly comes out more so probably through sex, but it could also just come out through your emotional state and what have you. Now, you need to form relationships with the opposite sex, but this square from Uranus deals with you being gay. Marriage with a person of the opposite sex ain't happening as a result. Thus, the Libra North node won't become totally manifest. However, the solution could be to enter into a business partnership with a woman. That would be the ideal solution, especially since your North node is at the 26th degree, and I said that 26 is partnership. But like I said, you have karma dealing with women, so there will be challenges dealing with women. So you got to be very discriminating when it comes to the type of woman that you choose to partner up with in business. But that would be the solution for this aspect, Uranus square North node. Because again, that North node in Libra is going to play out some way, somehow. So the essence of that is, part of it is, you need to become acquainted and learn how to relate to the opposite sex. And this stems from your mother, because your mother wasn't in your life like that, where you could learn about relating to the opposite sex. So that compounded that issue. Neptune at the 22nd degree of Capricorn. So Neptune rules your 11th house through Pisces. The 22nd degree, being in positions of submission, control or be controlled. That 22nd degree is rather challenging, and it can bring fated events. So if we're talking about the 11th house, it can bring fated events regarding friendships. It can also bring the whole control or be controlled with respect to your friendships. So again, I didn't include the more mundane interpretation just to save space. But if anybody orders a natal chart from me, that's what I do. I like include the mundane part of Neptune and Capricorn, or whatever your Neptune is at, and then I get into the individual part. So Neptune and Capricorn brings the mystical into everyday reality. Thus, individuals born during this time are naturally geared for careers that involve the paranormal and spirit world. More individuals born under Neptune and Capricorn were raised under a mystical belief system than other generations. As a result, subjects like astrology, numerology, tarot, and palm reading are rather commonplace and generally accepted as valid. Neptune and Capricorn individuals are largely drawn to the arts and the helping professions in terms of career. However, a good deal of those who were born when Neptune was in Capricorn expect to be given praise and rewards regardless of merit. The work ethic of a lot of Neptune and Capricorn individuals is lacking. So let me tell you something about a lot of these Neptune and Capricorn individuals. You're one of them. Not saying this is actually applying to you, but I've had quite a few of them where I've done readings for them, and they'll say, I want to be famous. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Well, famous for what? I don't know. I just want to be famous. That is the epitome of that Neptune and Capricorn, where you just want to be idolized. You want to be put on a pedestal, but for nothing. Like, you don't have no merit. Like, there's, you're not putting no work behind it. You just expect to be placed on a pedestal just because. So going back to that Neptunian aspect, Neptune conjoined to Uranus, you see what I'm talking about, how it produces individuals that have this huge sense of entitlement, that lack of work ethic, and that want to be praised regardless of them not putting forth any effort. So this Neptunian conjunction, it brought about that whole every kid deserves a trophy type of mentality. Every kid is a winner, which is some bullshit. And that is fostering a false sense of hope for children. Basically, you got to keep it real with children, because then they're going to resent you when they find out the truth. Just like, when you lie about children, talking about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all that stuff. And then when they get about age 8 or 9, then you're like, oh, well, by the way, Santa Claus ain't real. We've been buying you the gifts all these years. Like, that's a lie. Like, why lie to your children? I mean, I understand about fairy tales and stuff like that. But you never want to gas a child's head up and say you could be anything you want to be. But that is where this Neptune and Capricorn, Uranus and Capricorn conjunction is coming from, like that whole mentality. You could be whatever you want to be. That's a lie. And the natal charts will prove it. The natal charts will show your limitations, will show what you're capable of achieving and where you could fall short. So everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Everybody has their talents and all that. And that's part of what makes life great, the diversity. So no, not every kid deserves a trophy. Let me get off my soapbox. Neptune in the 8th. So when Neptune is in the 8th house, you are given direct access to the astral realm and the spirits that dwell therein. Spirits are attracted to you, so you may be no stranger to paranormal activity. In 8th house, Neptune can produce dreams about death as well as past lives. Natural affinity with the occult. Lovers, you might be a lover of movies of the horror, mystery, true crime, and suspense genres. You might be attracted to the dark arts. You may have an appreciation for erotica. Masturbation as well as porn could become an addiction. This addiction could also be projected onto your sex partners, but it'll be worse. And this placement of Neptune can produce self-undoing in the area of sex, but also with respect to the bonds that you form with people. Here's your chart again. Here's that Neptunian conjunction you got. And as you can see, it is afflicting your North Node. It is afflicting your Sun. So you're one of those people, and this explains why you don't have a strong sense of urgency to really make your mark upon the world yet. And this can point to being a late bloomer. Like you're not going to find your purpose maybe until after you hit your solar return. Saturn return. Saturn. Speaking of, I'm sorry, I got to digress real quick because I talked about this during my Ace of Cups radio show last night, but because of Mercury retrograde and that mishap I had, it didn't record. But anyway, I wanted to know if anybody watches that Netflix series, She's Gotta Have It by Spike Lee. So Spike Lee made a movie. His first movie was called She's Gotta Have It. It was released in I'm sorry, Gary, but I just got to get this out. But you might appreciate this. Maybe you watched this. But She's Gotta Have It was his first movie. It was released in the 80s. And now he has a Netflix series based upon that movie. So with that, She's Gotta Have It, I was watching one of the episodes last night. And I noticed Nola, who's the lead character, she was talking about her Saturn return. And I was like, hey, but that's Spike Lee for you. He's a Pisces. So a lot of Pisces are very much into astrology and mysticism and all that good stuff. So I just thought that was cool. But this lets you know we are about to really become mainstream. I'm talking about real astrology, not just sun sign astrology. I'm talking about real astrology where you're taking a whole chart into account, where your average everyday person is about to, they're going to know where their planets line up, all that type of stuff. We are approaching that age, and Uranus will enter Taurus in May. That's going to help usher in the mainstreaming of astrology, true astrology, not just sun sign astrology, the shit you find in the newspapers and magazines and stuff. I'm talking about true astrology, and I hope to be at the helm. So, as well as my squad from the Cosmic Council, I got some students that are going to benefit from this emergence or reemergence of astrology becoming mainstream, where like you'll start to see it more on TV, more on like sitcoms, movies, things like that, where people are going to really start taking it seriously. So I'm really excited about that. And also, so this should be an incentive. If anybody has considered pursuing a career as an astrologer, not just astrology though, it could be a numerologist, tarot reader, what have you, this is the time to do it, because astrologers and other metaphysicians, we're about to come up big time, like for real. With that Uranus and Taurus, we are about to be doing it up big. So I just want to put that out there. So that could be a little incentive to you, Gary, because you got some energy in your chart that could pertain to you practicing astrology, numerology, being a tarot reader, what have you. So you may want to consider, even if it's not your main career, it could be a way you could make a little money on the side, what have you. I teach astrology classes, so if you don't want to sign up to my classes, just hit me up. Neptune aspects. So like Uranus squaring the North Node, you got Neptune squaring the North Node. And this is one of the main aspects that points to your abandonment and subsequent placement in foster care. This aspect can play out in other ways, such as through your love affairs and sex, since the North Node is in the 5th house. Since the South Node is in the 11th and is also squared by Neptune, there will be karmic debt to be remitted through friendships, groups, and social connections. Challenges with relating to the opposite sex, beginning with your mother, due to the Aries South Node, which can deal with your past life transgressions. So let me talk about, I'm going to wait till we get to the nodes. Let me just wait. I'm getting ahead of myself. Also, the theme of institutionalization is strong, as well as passivity, mooching tendencies, deception, theft, hospitalization, isolation, illness. This aspect denotes heavy karma. So the theme of heavy karma is very strong in your chart. Your Pluto is at the 28th degree of Scorpio. Your Pluto rules the 6th house. And the 28th degree can deal with trusting people too easily. And it could cause you to be group oriented, but it will bring benefits through others, especially men. And Pluto and Scorpio ushered in the rise in popularity of tattoos and piercings. Pluto and Scorpio brought forth the goth crowd, gangster rap, and overt sexual images. Pluto and Scorpio also ushered in the rise in transgender individuals. So transgender individuals started to feel more comfortable with living according to their truth and coming out and all that stuff. And, the surgery started to get more advanced. The plastic surgery, even the sexual reassignment surgery, all that good stuff. So Pluto and Scorpio will basically intensify whatever planets in your chart it contacts. This energy will either be manifested constructively or destructively, never in between. So Pluto either builds or destroys. It doesn't really mess around with like gray areas. So it's very extreme in terms of its manifestation. So either it's going to uplift you or it's going to beat you down. The key words of Pluto and Scorpio are death, rebirth, regeneration, transformation, power, control, manipulation, sex, taboo, activity, underhandedness, crime, torture, aversion, hate, jealousy, unearned income, debt, and other people's money. Pluto can be a major blessing or the worst of curses, depending upon the house position and aspects. So with your Pluto in the 6th house, your Pluto can be more of a curse than a blessing. However, it could be a blessing in that it will enable you to get a lot of support from others at times. And Pluto in the 6th can point to life-saving surgery. With Pluto in the 6th house, stress can be a killer since it can produce a snowball effect with respect to illness. Pluto in Scorpio can also manifest as an autoimmune disorder when in the 6th house. This placement of Pluto is also indicative of a high susceptibility to infectious diseases, including those contracted via sexual activity. Speaking of that, I keep on digressing, but this is related. So after I uploaded the part 1 of this video natal chart reading, I found a video in my suggested video list on YouTube, and it was about colon health. And I'm like, oh my God, here they go spying on me again. Like these Google analytics are crazy how like I swear, I guess because they saw in the content I was talking about colon health with you and all that stuff. So then I started getting suggested videos. I'm big time in the science and medicine. So I'm always learning about things about the human body, anatomy, and all that stuff. So like I'm very much into health, all that good stuff. So when I saw because it says something about the colon and the brain, microbes in the colon and the brain, and I was like, oh, I gotta listen to this. So they were basically talking about how the absence of certain microbes in the colon, where they were saying the gut. And the gut is basically your main form of defense against infection, because that's where most of your immune system takes place. But basically they were saying that depending upon the microbes in your colon will affect your mental state. And they related it to autistic children. And I was like, wow, because they were basically saying autistic children, they have an absence of a certain microbe. And when they change the children's diet and they give them certain probiotics or whatever like that, they can help to combat those symptoms of autism. They also did this experiment. They got this medical procedure out, those who work in the medical profession, I'm sure you know about this. It's called fecal transplant. So basically they take the fecal matter from one healthy person and transfer it to a unhealthy person that is maybe deficient in certain healthy microbes in their intestinal tract, and that enables them to get better. However, because these microbes are connected to our consciousness, there's been a story of a mother and daughter who did the fecal transplant, right? And the daughter was heavyset and the mother was, normal weight. So the daughter transferred the daughter's fecal matter to the mother. Don't you know the mother started putting on weight? The mother gained like 34 pounds in a few months, and she could not lose weight to save her life. She was fasting, she was working out, all that. It's just fascinating how everything is connected. This is basically dealing with holistic health. It just shows that everything is connected. So the reason why I'm saying this is, it makes sense that the sixth house not just deals with physical health of the body, it also deals with health of the mind. So with your Pluto in the sixth house, especially when it conjoined to Mars, you're not only at risk for infections and also issues with the colon and your rectum and all that stuff. It can point to challenges with your brain because Mars rules the brain. So it's all connected. So it was just fascinating. It was a fascinating video I was watching. I was just like, wow. So that made me think of your chart and everything like that. And people do say, and I do believe this, that when you have sex with people, their spirit, you get some of their spirit and also their DNA. You keep that with you. So I used to always say that's why when you see them old prostitutes, it's not just, they all crazy. It's not just about them being strung out on drugs for all these years. It's because they've been riding that cock carousel for all these years, and they got all these different types of cock spirits all up in them, the spirit of penis all up in them, and it makes them cuckoo. So I feel like that could deal with anybody. Like anything in excess is not good. It's unhealthy. So including sex, it doesn't matter if it's gay sex, heterosexual sex, it doesn't matter. So when you are too focused on sex, which is being too focused on your lower chakra, then that can lead to not just physical health problems, but also mental health problems. So you got to be careful with that. You got to be really careful of who you share your body with. And I learned that the hard way, dealing with some dark-sided Virgo. Virgo falls in my 8th house. So you could just imagine how they were like really really taking a toll upon my mental health. But the sex was good. That's the thing. So the sex was good, but they were horrible for my mental health. I mean, one of them was so bad that I went into deep depression. So that's what I'm talking about. It wasn't just that they were in my life. I was having sex with these dark-sided individuals, and it started to rub off on me. So yeah, you got to protect your body. You got to protect your mind when it comes to partnering up with people, not just for sex, but for any reason. Okay, where am I at? Okay, this placement of Pluto is also indicative of a high susceptibility to infectious diseases, including those contracted via sexual activity. Pluto in the 6th, and especially when in Scorpio, can result in problems with elimination. You could have frequent cases of diarrhea and constipation. Your colon is vulnerable to disease and disorders. Pluto in the 6th is a common indicator for irritable bowel syndrome. So it's a lot of like what I discussed with your Mars conjoined to Pluto aspect. So this is basically just Pluto alone in the 6th house. So Pluto alone in the 6th house can wreak a lot of havoc upon your health and especially your elimination system. And also it can point to a need for surgery at some point. You did mention that, well, you didn't, I don't think you got surgery, but you got stitches at one point, but you might actually need surgery at some point. And then again, just a reiteration of what I said about your Mars conjunct Pluto. Anal sex does put you at serious risk, but that's true for everybody. So if you're inclined to engage in that type of sex, you have to take the utmost of precautions, you know, use protection, make sure you use plenty of lubricant, whatever like that. So be careful. Also, it can produce OCD tendencies and the binging as well. And again, it goes back to that Mars conjoined to Pluto conjunction. So it's basically more of the same. Here's your chart. Here's where Pluto lines up. That 28th degree, again, it can point to you're too trusting, even with your sex partners. So just look at how this can manifest literally. This Mars is a dude. So let's say this Mars is a dude that you're sweet on, that you think about getting with. And you got Pluto right here. And, you know, this is your sexual urges and stuff like that. And with 28th degree, you might not be questioning, okay, you know, when's the last time you've been to the doctor? When's the last time you got checked out? Let me see your last medical results or whatever like that. Have you ever had a sexually transmitted disease? Like you need to hand these potential mates a questionnaire before you even take your clothes off, for real. Like with this type of hookup. So, and if they don't want to answer your questions, that should tell you, you know what? I guess you don't deserve this because I care too much about my health. I care too much about my body to be taking a risk on some dude that might give me something that I can't get rid of. So again, look at Mars. Mars would represent a man, but it can also represent a penis going into the anus and a diseased penis going into the anus. You know, I got to be graphic because I just keep it real. And like I said, I'm very much into medical astrology and just the medical field in general. I got Sun conjoined to Neptune. So talking about this stuff, when it's medical related, like it doesn't faze me or anything. It really shouldn't faze anybody because this is all about health. This is all about the body. And these are natural functions, you know. Sex is a natural function. You know, your elimination system is a natural function. But when you got this activity in your sixth house, what could be unnatural is the microbes that get introduced into your system as a result of you engaging in certain types of sexual practices. But this even includes mouth to penis, mouth to anus contact. So you got to be careful about that. So even when it comes to oral sex, you need to hand that dude a questionnaire and be like, please fill this out. You know, I expect it to be returned within 24 hours. If you haven't been to the doctor in the past 6 months, please go and, you know, bring back your results and then we could get something going on. But problem with this is, you know, Mars wants to be spontaneous, and that does tend to take out the sexy out of the sexual act to have to go through this questionnaire and all that stuff. But I'm like, it's best to err on the side of caution when you got this activity going on in your sixth house. Okay, enough about that. You got Chiron at the 4th degree of Libra. 4th degree is akin to the energy of Chiron in some respects. Chiron in Libra can produce exceptional or abnormal relationships. There could be issues with respect to the legalities of a marriage. A spouse may already be married, or he may attempt to marry someone else while being married to you. See these typos? I said will being married to you. I have to fix this right now. While being married. And I type so fast. That's part of my problem. I type very fast. So I'd be like, and then it's like I'll worry about the errors later. But I didn't have time to really go through each of this and like really proofread it. So forgive me. But like I said, before I send you this PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to edit it. So you may get it in a few days. All right. Where was I at? So yeah, you could end up being with a bigamist or just like a philanderer or whatever like that with Chiron and Libra, but they'll act like they're committed to you. And also as a result of Chiron's influence on your relationships, there's a possibility that a marriage could simply be for convenience or status. Chiron and Libra can point to challenges with fitting into a group, organization, or society. It can indicate social anxiety or awkwardness at times. Chiron and Libra can manifest as injuries or disorders to the pelvis and the lumbar region of the back. Chiron and Libra can also manifest as problems with your kidneys. Issues with urination are possible. And I meant to mention this too. With your Venus in Scorpio, you might get a lot of urinary tract infections, or there might be a problem with your urethra or whatever like that at some point. Chiron in the fifth house. Chiron in the fifth house can bring painful and shocking circumstances where love, sex, and children are concerned. It is indicative of incidences of sexual abuse. Chiron when in the fifth can produce painful breakups and sudden separations. This placement of Chiron can produce unconventional love affairs. A lover could be very willful and uncompromising. A lover could be mentally, emotionally, or physically abusive. Chiron in the fifth house can manifest as heart or back trouble. And here's your little Chiron. It's right in bed with your Mercury. So they look like two little friends just getting along. South node. So here we go to the nodes. Some of my favorite parts of astrology, natal chart reading. I love the nodes because they are the basis for all the aspects in your chart. So that's one of the things I stress to my students, that when in doubt, look to the nodes because they will tell you all you need to know. Now, the South Node at the 26th degree of Aries, that 26th degree is about partnership, like I said before, but these partnerships are karmic in scope and will be unhappy for the most part. So that 26 shows up a few times in your chart. So you should know that that 26th degree and the number 26 is very pertinent in your life. Independence despite partnership is key. And it's great for business though. So this is part of the reason why your North Node is in the fifth house, is because you're supposed to be partnering up with people, but you're still supposed to maintain a large degree of independence at the same time. Also, the Aries South Node is indicative of past lives of excessive ego orientation and individualism. The Aries South Node is also indicative of past lives spent as a warrior or a fighter. You were probably like one of those, what do you call that? Spartans or something like that, where I'm thinking in a past life. I'm thinking in your most recent past life, you were gay. So that's why it comes very natural to you in this current life. Like you were gay, you were very much about male camaraderie. You were very much about fraternity. You were very much about, looking out for your fellow man, my brother's keeper, all that good stuff. And then sex was thrown into the mix. So you really didn't have no use for women in past lives. So you could have been like, just think about Alexander the Great and his army. One of the reasons why they said that his army was so fierce is because all of his soldiers were gay. And they say that when you got a bunch of gay soldiers together, they're going to be extra fierce because there's that extra bond involved, that sexual bond, which makes them want to fight, protect each other even more. So that's one of the reasons why they say Alexander the Great was able to conquer different nations and stuff, because of his army. So again, along with those lines, you have spent some lifetimes as an alpha male. So now you have to balance that energy out with feminine energy. Carnal desires were given priority over all else. You were very bestial, sexual, and aggressive. So in past lives, if you were just dealing with all males, like you didn't really have to deal with decorum. Like if you wanted some ass, like you would just take it, vice versa, whatever like that. It was more so like, how, some of the more promiscuous gay men get down, where it's like, they'll meet each other in a bathroom, or they'll meet each other in a bathhouse, or in a back alley, or whatever like that. Actually, like I said, one of my gay friends, he told me a story, and I was like, dude, you need to chill on that. He told me a story about where he met this guy in a back alley, and they was going at it. And I was like, dude, do you have a death wish or what? Like, you didn't know that dude from Adam or whatever like that. But a lot of gay men have this problem, and that's why they can accumulate thousands of sex partners. And I'm talking about literally. There are some gay men that have upwards of thousands of sex partners. Why? Because men don't have that need to just wait and to build that, that interpersonal rapport. Men are very spontaneous. Men are very bestial naturally. So it's like, it's nothing for them to have sex with each other. They don't need to even exchange names sometimes. It's just like, yo, dick is hard. I'm ready. Come on, let's get it. So no, in past lives, you were very much that type of person. So in this current lifetime, you're still bringing over a lot of that bestial, hypersexual energy. So in this lifetime, you got to learn that can actually be your downfall. So that's why I kept on harping upon your Mars in the 6th, conjoined to Pluto and all that type of stuff, because with your South Node in Aries, Mars rules Aries. Sex can definitely be your downfall, and you also have karma dealing with men, especially younger men. So that's why I suggested that you get with men that are much older, at least 7 years older than you. I'd say at least 5. Now, in this lifetime, the more self-absorbed and self-serving you are, the more challenges you will face. In this lifetime, there is a need to place more focus on others and the outside world in general. It is important to realize that your way is not always the right or optimal way. Let me just go back to the past life with the sex. As you know, sex is one of my favorite topics, so I like to talk about it. So, so like I was saying, one thing I thought about with your South Node being in the 11th house in particular, I was like, oh, he was in a past life, he was probably all into that group sex, like they was having orgies and stuff, like in the Roman times and stuff like that, just going all out. I don't know if you ever heard of that sexual act called the daisy chain, but if you don't, research it, because that they was doing that back in the Roman times. Enough said about that. But anyway, so like none of this is new. Like they always say, there's nothing new under the sun. Homosexuality has been around since the beginning of time. However, it's only been recently that it's been widely accepted and all that stuff. So you could have been part of a special cadre of men, and y'all could have been like military or whatever, and y'all could have had also like a sexual bond. So going back to that, so I think I like beat the dead horse with the sex thing, but it might come up again when I talk about other stuff. So I'm almost done. So in this lifetime, there's a need to place more focus on others and the outside world in general. It is important to realize that your way is not always the right or optimal way. South Node in the 11th house, karmic debt that must be paid in the form of problems with friendships and group affiliations. Being too reliant upon friends in this lifetime can lead to disaster. Certain friendships that you form in this lifetime will stifle your growth and development. The more you attempt to distinguish yourself from the crowd, the more people are likely to try to keep you down at their level, and this can especially happen with friends. So if you have some ambitions and goals that you're pursuing, you might have some friends that act as naysayers, or they might be like, why are you doing that? Like, that's stupid. Or, oh, no, you need to just chill with us or whatever like that. Don't go, do this. And so you might find that once you start to really pursue your ambitions and you start to distinguish yourself from the crowd, you might find that some of your friends drop off because you no longer have anything in common with you, or they could just be hating on you because you're succeeding in life, you're making strides in life, and they're not. There is a need to place more focus on the here and now rather than the distant or even immediate future. There is a need to take focus off of what is far out of reach. Placing too much emphasis on the intellect is not conducive to your spiritual growth as well. The inclination towards emotional detachment and aloofness needs to be reduced. So here's your invisible South Node. See, my software, they make it, a lot of softwares will make it invisible because you're not really supposed to place a lot of focus on that South Node. So you're supposed to place more focus on this, but know that this South Node never goes away. It's always there, just waiting to rear its ugly head. So know that you can always revert back to that South Node, and the aspects like dealing with the South Node can point to that, how it's easy to revert back to that South Node, like Neptune and Uranus squaring the South Node. Now we come to your North Node in Libra. So I've been talking about the North Node in Libra this whole time, so you should already be very familiar with what this represents. But just to go more in detail, so your North Node's at the 26th degree of Libra. 26th degree is about partnership, but these partnerships are karmic in scope and will be unhappy for the most part. Independence despite partnership is key, and it's great for business though. And like I mentioned, your solution in terms of being able to connect with the opposite sex, relate to the opposite sex, is to enter into a business partnership with a woman. But since your moon is in the 12th house, you got to be very careful about the type of woman that you choose to partner up with. So if you were ever to consider partnering up with a woman in terms of business, I would suggest that you get a reading from me or some other qualified professional, whether it's an astrologer, tarot reader, what have you, so that we could check them out and let you know if it's going to be good. Like that would be a perfect time to do a synastry about you and that person. The Libra North Node beckons you to become more relationship oriented in this lifetime. This is due to past lives where too much emphasis was placed on the self. Forming harmonious relationships will be another one of your main challenges in this lifetime. The Libra North Node will require you to put the shoe on the other foot and entertain divergent points of view. So the Libra North Node is pretty straightforward, but it doesn't guarantee harmonious relationships. A lot of times it will be the reverse. A lot of times you'll be entering into a lot of disharmonious relationships because you don't have any experience being in relationships because of the past lives of you being very Aryan, being very much about, you know, your ego, about yourself, or just about maleness. So the North Node in the 5th house, you need to be the star of your own show. You need to distinguish yourself from the crowd. You need an audience, and you need to become more comfortable with taking center stage, which you're doing right now. So this is one of the placements that points to you being okay with me doing this video natal chart reading via YouTube, and me using your name and all that good stuff. So this is actually part of your spiritual evolution. So it's a good thing that you agreed to this, because this is something that you need. In this lifetime, you are called to be some sort of performer, whether it is in the field of entertainment, sales, sports, or what have you. Express yourself more freely, including sexually, albeit with Libra North Node, you need to be discriminating. That's the key. So the North Node in the 5th alone is like, okay, you need to have a healthy sex life. You need to be able to express yourself sexually, just express yourself, period, but also sexually. However, Libra is telling you, you need to deliberate, you need to be discriminating, you need to weigh the pros and cons before deciding to get sexually active with someone. That would be the ideal. And it would be ideal for you to actually be in a quasi relationship with one person, even if you're not in a commitment with them, where it's like, okay, this is the person that I'm having sex with for the time being. And that could be for a year or 2 years or what have you. Now, you really can't control what they do. But that's where readings and stuff come in and stuff like that to see if they can be monogamous. Creative expression needs to be developed. There is a need to promote your talents and strengths. Confidence and inner strength need developing. You are to get in touch with your inner child. Children may play a very special and perhaps poignant role in your life. There is a need for you to engage in more recreational activities. In this lifetime, you must do what makes you happy, regardless of what others think, especially your friends and any groups in which you are affiliated. And here's your chart again, and here's where your North Node lines up. North Node aspects for North Node Sesame Square Ascendant, just refer back to the Ascendant aspects because I already discussed that. So refer back to part 1 of the video. North Node trine in heaven, great for networking, public relations. It's good for an online business partnership. So like I mentioned, possibly with a woman. Pertains to the retaining of my astrology service, since your midheaven is in Aquarius, and how it will lead to you receiving some much needed attention and validation. So like I said, I was reading some of the comments, and I saw that you're already getting love from some of the members of the Real Talk Astrology group. So it's making me feel good. Hopefully it's making you feel good that you're being you're getting this positive attention, because you definitely need it in this lifetime. And let me go back to that North Node in the 5th house. You definitely need to experience love in this lifetime because it was lacking in the early part of your life. But again, with that Libra, you need to be discriminating when it comes to that. And a romantic partner may help you to get a job, North Node trine midheaven. And this can point to having surrogate or quasi mothers, female mentors, counselors, advisors. And I noticed that you were getting the most love from the females in Real Talk Astrology. And so basically use this to your advantage. So again, remember what I said, that North Node in Libra, you need to be able to relate and connect to the opposite sex in this lifetime, not necessarily through sex or marriage because you're gay, but through other means. So business partnership, or where you have a woman that takes the place of the mother that you really didn't have growing up. So this could be, you know, a number of the female members in the Real Talk Astrology group, or it could be a female friend or what have you. So this is a really beneficial aspect. So again, like I said, I broke this down between sections. If you want me to go in depth upon this, I guess I could do a separate reading about this, but for lack of time, I covered a lot already, but I was going to go into each area of your life. So let me just scroll past this because I'm running out of time. And I am going to get into your remaining asteroids, your fixed stars, and your Arabic parts. So this is the final part of this video natal chart reading. Now, asteroids, fixed stars, and Arabic parts, they're like the icing on the cake. I call them nuances. I also call them fine-tuning interpretation tools. And they're very insightful. And they will point to fated events. They will point to situations that have happened in your life that other aspects in the natal chart aren't going to like pinpoint. So that's why I call it, it's like the icing on the cake. So you have Estrella, parallel Mercury, and this can deal with maintaining romantic and casual connections long after the benefits have ceased. Grammar error. It's have, not has. See, I'm sorry, I got to change this. Have ceased. You see what I mean? I like just I just type fast and then I have to edit afterwards. Okay, have ceased. Beating a dead horse. So keep on like discussing an issue over and over and over again, even after you got the answer, after you got the insight. Dragging out issues longer than necessary. Extreme indecisiveness that stems from entertaining too many different points of view. So you're the type of person where it's like it's not enough that you get a second opinion. You want a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Also being long-winded can point to illness that is prolonged, such as a cold that lasts longer than usual. And also respiratory issues with breathing. So again, it goes back to what I said about possible sleep apnea. So let me know if you have that issue. Now you have the asteroid Hebe opposing the North Node. This deals with serving, but with an ulterior motive. It can deal with that. So it could deal with the potential mate you attract. Also, misfortunes with children or children are not desired. You have Hygeia contra parallel moon. This can deal with health problems. Not being proactive about your health. So you know how I was getting on you about that 6th house influence. And also waiting until symptoms get out of control before you do something about it. Also could point to stomach problems, dietary issues, and you might have some food allergies. Pandora is conjoined to Neptune, and this can point to exposing secrets. So remember what I said about your Saturn and Pisces in the 10th. I'm like, you're like a whistleblower. So this kind of points to the same thing. So exposing secrets, exposing wrongdoing. However, it can point to you having an extensive porn collection. So it could be a lot of porn files you have on your phone, or a lot of porn pictures you have on your phone or computer, whatever like that. And it can bring an addiction to porn. And then you have Siwa, contra-parallel ascendant. This can deal with fertility issues, or because your ascendant is in Gemini, it can point to a conscious decision on your part not to have children, because Siwa is an asteroid that deals with fertility. You have Arachne conjoined to your North Node. Now that can be caught up in sticky situations involving lovers or partners, being tied up in the foster care system, creating a web of intrigue just to seem like you're more interesting, not being able to let a partner go, being too involved in the affairs of others. So when I say not being able to let a partner go, the thing that came to mind is like, you know, like you could have a couple and one partner says, I want a divorce. And then next thing you know, the other partner mysteriously falls ill, or they get an injury or whatever like that, in order to be dependent upon that partner or spouse, so that they like end up sending that partner or spouse on a guilt trip. And now that partner doesn't want to leave them because they feel obligated to take care of them or look after them because now they're incapacitated or whatever like that. So Arachne conjoined to the North Node can play out like that. So it can either be you doing it or a partner doing it. Orpheus conjoined to Mars. This could deal with being inspired by a traumatic event. The death of a male friend or lover is possible. And also Mars rules intercepted Aries in the 11th. So that reinforces the possible death of a male friend or lover, because Orpheus is about a myth about he lost his wife, Eurydice. She got murdered. And he ended up going down. I think he went down to Hades, and he wrote some songs, and he was singing, like he wrote some songs in her honor, and he was like singing hymns and what do you call it? Eulogy. Basically, that's like a eulogy. Your fixed stars. You only got 2 fixed stars, which is actually a good thing, because the fixed stars could be rather deleterious. Some of them could be very good, like they could bring blessings, but some of them could be like really wreck your life up. You got Mars conjoined to Agena. This deals with good health, high morals, disillusion through love, success with the masses. You got Pluto conjoined to Ptolemy. This deals with, it's good for being an occultist and philosopher. It can point to self-analysis, what you're doing. Also benefits through friends. That's a constant theme that keeps coming up. Refinement, being in high positions, but also where you could be stubborn and cruel. And it could point to stormy or spoiled relationships with women. So there's that karma ties with the women. And it points to a need for freedom. So this could be projected onto other people, especially because Pluto is involved. And then more Arabic parts. Geez, you got a lot of Arabic parts, but it makes sense considering your background. So you got the part of catastrophe, opposition Saturn. This could deal with a catastrophe involving your father or in the workplace. Catastrophe involving your mother because Saturn is in the 10th house. That's the house of the mother. And then also part of brethren of opposition Saturn. It's getting late and I'm tired. No relationship with siblings or lack thereof, being bullied, humiliated by males, especially in a group home setting, AP in the 4th. So the Arabic part is in the 4th house. So that's why I talked about the group home setting or being in foster care and being bullied or humiliated, and also facing discrimination in the workplace. The part of husbandry is conjoined to the North Node. This could deal with a job that involves the management and or conservation of resources. And it could deal with you taking up an interest in gardening or landscaping. And then the part of Suns conjoined to Jupiter could be a partner's child, possible adoption of a foster or adoption, or you becoming a foster parent of a child, mainly because of that Jupiter and Sagittarius influence. Because like I said, both Jupiter and Sagittarius, they pertain to the foster care system and adoption. And then part of daughters conjunct Venus. This could deal with a partner's daughter or another person's daughter with whom you have a close connection, since Venus is in Scorpio. So just think about how Venus and Scorpio in relation to the part of daughters can deal with other people's daughters. And then part of faith conjunct Mercury and Chiron. This can deal with misplaced faith and getting spanked as a result for it, and also putting your faith in those who are undeserving. And then you have part of nobility and honor, opposition Venus. This could deal with a partner who expects to be placed on a pedestal, having to do too much to please a partner, dishonorable partners, and being deceived by a partner who claims to be something he is not, being scammed out of money by a charlatan or a fraud. More Arabic parts, and I think this is the end. Part of sudden advancement is conjoined to the South Node. So this could deal with wasting your blessings, advancing in terms of goals, then falling back when no one is supporting or encouraging you. Part of friends conjoined to the North Node reinforces the theme of being in the friend zone. Many friendships will produce fated events, friends with benefit situations. Also part of honorable acquaintance, opposition Jupiter. It's also conjoined to the ascendant. This could deal with you meeting famous people throughout your life, VIPs and celebrities. And then part of private enemies, opposition moon, reinforces the theme of secret enemies, since the moon is in the 12th house and that can point to secret enemies, especially dealing with women. Reinforces the theme of karmic debt via women. Could have a shady, unscrupulous landlord at one point. And you may dream about your enemies before they commit transgressions upon you. So this could actually be your saving grace. This private part of private enemies, opposition moon, because you may have a dream. This has happened to me actually, and I don't even have this aspect, but I got Sun conjoined to Neptune. So I've had dreams about some of my enemies before they've actually done things. Or I've had a dream after they did something where it's like I didn't know who it was, and then I had a dream, and the dream told me who it was. So you can have that same situation where you got a private enemy, and through a dream, you find out who that private enemy is. And it could be somebody that's very close to you, more than likely a woman. So that's why I say you got to be very careful when it comes to trusting certain women and partnering up with them. It's a good thing you're gay. All right, questions. So that is the end of this video natal chart reading. If you have any questions, I ask that you email me, carmen3675@aol.com. You already have my email. And then if you would like a follow-up reading or whatever like that, I do solar return reports. I do a lot of auxiliary charts, or you could say additional charts like solar returns, synastry, all that other stuff. So here's my website, and this is for anybody as well. If you have questions about any of my services or whatever, send me an email. If you would like to just go ahead and purchase a reading, or you just want to check out my website, here's the website right here. And so hopefully you found this reading insightful and enlightening. And I hopefully I didn't go too hard on you with some of the sensitive stuff, but as you know, I keep it real because I'm the realest astrologer. So I don't sugarcoat when it comes to anything. So anything that I see, I'm going to tell you. The only thing that I really don't touch upon is the native's death. So I'm not the type, I'm not going to predict someone's death. If I'm doing their natal chart, that's off limits. But everything else pretty much is fair game. So I hope that you enjoyed this video natal chart reading. And for anybody that is interested in getting the same type of reading, you could purchase the video natal chart reading from my website. It can be done in two ways. So it can be done via YouTube, where it's going to be made public. But if you prefer it private, you could do it via Zoom conferencing. That's where all of my other video natal chart readings take place. But like I said, the difference is the video natal chart reading via Zoom conferencing is free form, where I don't have like notes in advance. I don't have my PowerPoint presentation. So it's more free form, but it's interactive, which means that I can see you, you can see me, you can ask me questions and I answer them in real time. And it also allows me to demonstrate my skills and expertise, because like I said, I'm reading it free form off the top of my head. And, that way you'll know that, I'm the real deal, because, I'm not the type where I'm like, oh, let me research this. And I gotta, no, everything for the most part is up here. The only thing that I do need to research every now and then is fixed stars and stuff, because it's kind of hard to memorize all the manifestations of these fixed stars. But when I do my natal charts, it's all up here. And that deals with many years of studying and doing charts and charts and charts and charts and charts. So again, if you would like to become an astrologer yourself, I do teach classes. So hit me up via email. Peace and many blessings. I'll be back shortly with some more videos.